From esports, trying to find the angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll! We're gonna take flag. See White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Beast Mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Oh. Santi's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Sagafar is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick under Linky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Boom! They need to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3. Melophobia starting the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy, popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the 8? They get the 8.
Good evening, everybody. We got some more CGL action coming your way. You thought you just had that one game earlier, but oh no. We have even more. NAPC Open has a grand finalist to decide here. The first one, meanwhile, the loser will be heading down to the lower bracket. I am Megalas. I'm joined with Tryhard Ray. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And I mean, I'm just going to put it out there already. I'm pretty biased in this one. If you check my Twitter, I have been a big backer of BSC. Their Twitter account has liked many of my tweets as I support them moving up the rankings in the collegiate rankings. So I still think this will be a great match because Nightmare Rotation, they were supposed to be on SNO a few weeks ago. And it was the week where you were exhausted from doing your OWCS co-stream, so I did the interviews that week, and I have a behind-the-scenes interview with their coach that never got aired because their game ended up forfeiting. So I know their team very well, and their coach was amazing. So I can't wait to see this unorthodox composition in general that Nightmare Rotation likes to play, going up against one of the top collegiate programs that exists today in Overwatch.
It should make for a great matchup. While you're holding all the chips, though, we're going to go ahead and see even more things like our schedule. In case you've been living under a rock, you don't know what's been happening today. Over on the EU side of things, 0907 did what they had to and dispatched Everfrog in 3-0 fashion. And then just now, Oops All Vibes is able to take a 3-1 victory over SCAD B Sports Black, sending them to elimination as well. You know, all these brackets, they're starting to come towards their conclusions. We're in that last week of the playoffs here, and really, I mean, this is starting to heat up, right? This is where all these matches are coming and just doing what they need to do.
Yeah, shoutouts to both Everfrog and SCAD. They both had incredible seasons in their own divisions, and they were both. I mean, Everfrog, we had a great match with them on SNO back in the early, where they ended up getting a big 3-2 victory. So they were such a great participant. And SCAD, I am partial to the Diamond division because it's a lot closer to what my actual SR is. So very great season from another collegiate program as well. So, and now it's all going to wrap up on, this is probably our most coveted high, like it's the NAPC open tiers for both NA and EU. They're probably like, because they're going to be the highest ranks you get. I mean, console as well, but I mean, we all know there's just a PC diff sometimes. And so this is the winners finals. Winner is going to the grand finals.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we take a look at our bracket, you know, you did mention console. Beagle Bus is still sitting down there. Don't forget about them just yet, but they still have some more to prove. But yeah, so being able to go to the grand finals in this much easier fashion, right? It's exactly what you're gonna want. Both of these teams currently haven't dropped a map in this postseason, actually. Both have been able to cruise through their opponents up to this point, but we'll have to see if that momentum can keep rolling, of course. Otherwise, you know, winning one of those loser round matchups against either Beagle Bus or Tanuki, it's going to be difficult, really, for either of these squads.
Yeah, keep in mind, Tanuki got the best of Beagle Bus in the first round matchup 3-1, so Beagle Bus has a chance to get some revenge. For the side of this match for Nightmare Rotation BSC Bobcats, Nightmare Rotation won the midseason madness for this whole CGL season. They won the midseason tournament. But BSC, they had to forfeit their match because, you know, they're collegiate. They got busy. They had some other tournaments, you know, ABC, all these other things they had to do. So they didn't really participate as far as they wanted to in the midseason tournament. Very excited to see what happens here. These have been by far and away the two best teams in this division, and now they clash after neither dropping a map so far, as you mentioned, in the playoffs.
It's going to be super, super interesting. Like you said, you know, Bobcats, they've risen the ranks in collegiate, but that collegiate, it does come with a bit of an asterisk, right? Obviously, the extra workload that's happening right now all across the country, the globe, really. I can say as a college student myself now that it's not the most fun, but, you know, they certainly have been able to get the job done before, so we'll have to see up against this Nightmare Rotation squad if they can. But speaking of these squads, I believe we're going to be able to look at them a little bit deeper, see what we've got working with. Starting with Nightmare Rotation here, we've got Harmony and Plato on that DPS line, Matt Merck being your tank for the moment, and Bandit and Chosen on that support line. I mean, Obviously, the prominent figurehead Dirt not in right now, but it just makes sense, right? Like Malgameta, Roadhog just is not clashing with everything
Yeah.
the way that you would want it to.
Yeah, so expect them to not, I mean, as long as Dirt's not in, don't expect them to be playing that unorthodox composition that is so synonymous with Nightmare Rotation. When Matt Merck is in the lineup, they are going to play a little bit more of what's the meta. With that, let's go ahead and pull up their opponents. BSC Bobcats, looking at Peace and manually holding down that DPS line with Pantera, who's been Peace and Pantera have been their big new additions coming into the season of Collegiate, who BSC struggled very heavily at the end of the last Collegiate cycle. Meta didn't really favor them, and they had a bunch of people graduating as well, so they bring in these two new pieces who've been very, very good for them. And then Proto and Nenwai on the support line, just what more could you ask for in a Collegiate roster like this?
No, I mean, you cannot ask for more. Like you said, if you've been following the collegiate scene, you've been watching this team rise across the entirety of NA, becoming more and more dominant here and really establishing themselves. So, on paper, you do have to favor them over Nightmare Rotation just because they've have some recent results, not just here in CGL, but in that collegiate scene that show they can really contend with some of the best across the country. And it's just going to be more and more work for them if they're able to just keep these wins coming.
And talking about the fact that we're getting that much closer, I believe it's either this week or the finals are basically upon this week, if I'm correct, Mega. So I think for the side of BSC Bobcats, it's going to be that much more important for them to get this win so they can just focus on their finals and just wait on the rest of the teams before grand finals happen. Because talking with some of our staff, it's looking like this grand final likely won't be happening until next Saturday. So they'll have like a really big break to focus on their finals and then actually, start getting a good wrap on the new meta that's coming tomorrow.
Exactly. And that's, another thing, right? With that looming meta tomorrow, we could discuss that for days and days, but I think these teams would much rather focus on the here and now. And that's going to mean our first map. You already see it in the background, the lovely little highlight reel you see going on behind us. It is going to be Lijiang Tower to start. I mean, Control, Lijiang Tower, name a more iconic duo, right? This map, it's so unbelievably standard. Everybody knows the little niche tips and tricks. Hey, you want to bust out a Symmetra here? It's not going to be unexpected, right? Everybody just knows. It's like a warm feeling, just being able to have this comfort with Lijiang Tower.
It's the perfect playground for these more brawl-centric compositions with the Malga Reaper Echo, which is a lot of burst damage. It's a lot of players just colliding in close proximity to each other. This is the perfect showcase to see how these compositions and how these teams are going to play within it as we get ready to load you guys up into our first map between these two talented teams. Let's go, baby.
Let's go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Obviously we've got them in the spawn room right now. Everybody's just sort of deciding what they're going to play. The baits are going to come out. But, Bobcats currently hovering what should be standard brawl, but they've got a Ramatra in the mix. What do you make of this?
It's hard for me to believe if they're actually going to stick on it, but it looks like they are. I don't know if I want to say this is specific to what Nightmare Rotation's doing. They're playing a SIG composition, so I think they want to just with no hit scan available for Nightmare Rotation, they just want to get in your face with this Pharah and just pelt you with damage.
Yeah, that's what they're after. After a healthy anti-nade gets applied to Nightmare Rotation, they're now stuck outside the point, looking in here, trying to be a little bit more careful. Peace is raiding in these rockets, as you suggested. Gets a nice boop, isolating the Ana. Chosen is going to fall down. Plato actually knocked off the map by the boop. Didn't even see that one. And before you know it, Nightmare Rotation has fallen off over the map, and Bobcats are going to take first cap.
He's opening everything up on that Pharah, and not to discount what Proto was doing on that Ana, getting some huge, big anti-nades. The two of them are just in complete sync. Peace has been one of the biggest standouts and biggest risers in NA for flex DPS.
Massive player to continue to watch out for, as now Nightmare Rotation making some swaps. They have a Junker Queen in the mix. Nice little dynamite applied to the Lucio, making it a little bit scared for Niwai to come in. Now, actually, a beautiful pull could get manually caught out of position, and they do manage to do it now with the Sojourn missing. You are seeing this push forward from the Junker Queen. Matt Merck onto the tank now. Malga, Ramatra rather, all he can do is block those arms and block the damage for as long as he can. Finally removed from the fight. It is going to be an immortality field also thrown in from Chosen, as far as still raining in rockets as Nightmare Rotation finally gets the cap.
This Junker Queen's going to do a great job of being able to play in this brawl. Rocket Barrage coming in. It finds one, and Manuel's found two.
Oh my goodness, the investment of the barrage so quickly. Now a nano boost as well. It is going to be Harmony under fire on point, and Nightmare Rotation, they will not hold on to this point for long after some heroics from this DPS line to get Bobcats right back in it.
Very well played, and Peace being able to keep themselves alive and get themselves in range for Proto to be able to throw onto that barrage, and they were just able to find the kill. And the other big thing was that one kill, there wouldn't have been enough with the investment of Nano and Barrage, but Manuel was able to find one in the process as well, so then you're able to clean up quickly. And in the meantime, Peace has found Chosen, so that's just even more free percentage gained for the Bobcats.
Yeah, I mean, your flex support cannot be missing from the fight this often here, as Beast now seems to be dodging his own honest shots intentionally. That's a play if I've ever seen one, but now it's going to be the teleporter play as Harmony manages to take Manually out of the fight. This is a good opening for Nightmare Rotation. They have a lot of ultimates. They choose to not invest anything else, though, so now Bobcats are kind of just stuck back in main here, trying to hunt down the Baptiste, and actually Peace will end up going down here with Matt Merck on the horizon, able to help as well. I mean, Nightmare Rotation now get a free fight win.
You're going to take that every day to Sunday. We're going to see Pantera trying to get out on this Ramatra, and they will. Lots of ults for both teams to be able to use in this fight, and this Rampage could be absolutely deadly. I mean, you do have that beat to counteract it if necessary.
Yes, indeed, but you can't counteract damage already done. Now that Rampage coming out, like you said. Oh, actually, the beat does not catch on to Proto, but the Sleep Dart is there, and now a beautiful annihilation from Pantera into the backline is going to get all the kills it needs here for Bobcats to get back in control.
Yeah, and they're going to get a late stagger as well onto Matt Merck. 82% and counting, and not only that, Mega, but Bobcats had restraint. They held on to their nano. They held on to their overclock. They will have to deal with an orbital ray, but they have some tools to try and help.
Massive tools, but now actually the Sim Wall already being invested just to try to get them out of spawn. Beautiful ball rollout is going to mean that a touch is there, trying to focus fire onto this Lucio, but it's Manually who instead has the focus fire ready to remove Harmony. This orbital ray trying to keep everybody nice and healthy, but it does not do its job. Bandit now missing from the fight. Nightmare Rotation losing players left, right, and center. They're trying to stagger these touches, but with Matt Merck going down, Chosen the final one to fall, it seems like Bobcats have locked up round one.
And to me, that was so it's more of a target priority issue they had in that final fight. They were sitting there, looked like they were going after Pantera on the Ramatra, but the entire time Manually was just on the off angle, firing off that overclock. I felt like that would have been, especially with the orbital ray on point, you go after the person who's ulting and not allow them to free fire on you like that. So I think that was kind of a mistake coming up from Nightmare Rotation. As we now move to Gardens, which is the map that is going to open up the possibility for playing a dive, and it looks like Nightmare Rotation is going to at least show that a little bit of having Matt Merck stick on the wrecking ball this time around. As I say that, they do not. They decide to go to the Junker Queen and play the Brawl, which is probably smart. It wasn't doing well enough against the sustainment that the Ramatra had.
Yeah, but one thing that was doing good, I mean, absolutely, was Peace on this Vara, constantly raining in rockets. Now already has the Junker Queen to half HP, forcing out the shout incredibly early. But it's actually Pantera, the first one to fall there at the hands of Chosen. Proto will get their own pound of flesh in this fight, and Niwai actually just racing to their own death in a very interesting way here. But after it's all said and done, trades are happening. We're in a 2v2 situation. The Vara so desperate on the edge of the map. Bandit able to clean that one up, and now the Junker Queen looking for one final limb here, but I don't think they need it.
No, they don't, as we do see players available for the Bobcats to try and touch. They are going to let the point cap and give themselves time to regroup as a full 5, which I think is the smart decision to do, and Chosen's been found.
Yep, and now missing that support. Matt Merck is going to be soon to follow with no healing in sight. Harmony does manage to pick one up onto Pantera again, but nobody else is going to die on the side of Bobcats. They're going to be able to get a quick flip back.
And that was just the smart decision from the Bobcats to be like, look, we don't need to press the issue right away. If we regroup as a 5, we can just take this point back that much faster. Only 16% gain for Nightmare rotation. As we see Peace, man, just on this angle. So many rockets, but manually has been found.
Manually too deep in. The Sojourn slide was not enough with a knife pull coming through. Now Nightmare rotation with an advantage. They take an interesting teleport here. Beautiful anti-applied onto 2 members is going to stop Nightmare rotation from, well, rotating. The namesake has been halted. Now Ramatra being pulled back into the line of sight as this Nanofara is in the backline trying to do some level of work. Does manage to come up with 1 pick. Gets the second. No supports in sight now for Nightmare rotation. Means the overclock is going to get ripped 4 manually here. Dropping all these targets incredibly low. Matt Merck actually rips the Rampage, trying to be a hero, but unfortunately I think that may have been a mistake. Sure, you're able to pick one up on the Proto, but now you're just being fired on by manually, and Bobcats will remain in control.
Yeah, and the staggers are just coming through even stronger. Like, you can't even afford your team to push at that point, despite the numbers that the Bobcats were down, because you don't have your tank. Bobcats also still have their beat and barrage to work with, while Nightmare rotation's really, I mean, Orbital Ray should be a big-time ult for this next fight.
Could be massive. It's been the defining factor of metas for a while now, but the barrage, nobody's expecting it! Hiding in the corner, gets full supports before being taken out. It's tactically an even trade, but missing supports is brutal, as now you have no healing. Plato is trying to be a difference maker now. It is going to force the Sound Bearer and the Annihilation out, but this percentage is ticking up higher and higher. Harmony going down this late means Nightmare rotation are struggling for a touch.
Struggling for a touch, and they will get one, but it's going to be a stagger touch. They can't take a full group, as we see Matt Merck having to abandon the Rampage in order to get back faster on the Doomfist.
They get to the point here, 4v4 now, as Chosen actually manages to boop Peace off the map. That's one you don't see every day. Now, this ERE really trying to be the difference maker here. Beautiful Cat the Sun removes Proto from the fight. Harmony finding one onto Niwai now actually means that Nightmare rotation, their stagger touch pays off, and they're able to keep themselves alive.
And they held on to the Orbital Ray, so they're going to be able to commit that into this next fight. The one thing that can affect that a little bit, we have said in the past for our Rampage, for example, it's been a nice Orbital Ray tool. So this anti-nade from Proto could also do the same thing, and they've been on point with their nade. So you get a good one during the Orbital Ray, and they don't get any healing.
Yeah, Proto's going to be a potential power player, but Niwai already missing. Now a nano-boosted Pharah trying to find their way into the backline, trying to get their revenge on the ERE. Some quick movement, though, going to keep them alive until that anti-nade, as you said, comes through and does what it needs to. Still, Matt Merck has done work, gotten 2-3 picks in this fight now, making it very, very difficult for Bobcats to want to approach this charged-up Doomfist. The fight's still chaotic back and forth as we're contesting the point. So Winston looking for a chance to dive in here, going to come in. Actually, it's going to be Matt Merck in the backline, and he booped off the map! The Peace on the Pharah had the boop in place, ready to go. Now Harmony has removed Peace, though, so again, we're still back and forth, but it seems like it's slowly starting to edge in Bobcat's favor. Pantera still alive, doing damage on this tank. The beautiful TP to keep Harmony alive, but that point flip comes through. Now Harmony missing from the fight. It's going to be a Doomfist Meteor Strike onto the point for Matt Merck in desperation here, but they're out of numbers. A barrage to the face means that it's going to be Nightmare rotation out of time, out of point percentage to contest and give here, as it will be Bobcats taking Lijiang Tower.
And again, Nightmare rotation, especially on the second point, put up a really good fight. It did feel like, though, when things got bad, just the talent that some of these individual players from Bobcats came through, like Peace coming through so many times, time and time again on that Pharah, but Proto on that Ana was absolutely nuts.
Exactly. I mean, that Ana was just devastating time and again. You were talking about the value of those anti-nades, and being able to find them, you know, consistently enough is one thing, but also, you know, we've seen teams pilot the Ana and the follow-up's never there sometimes. So it's crucial that that Ana is communicating, hey, this is where people are going to be antied at. You guys need to go in and do the damage, and you have Pharah rockets, Sojourn, Railgun, whatever else you need to actually clean up these picks for Bobcats. And, you know, that's why it's working for them right now. So Nightmare rotation, now get a pick of map and mode across everything else. And something tells me they're going to want to find a place that Ana can't sit all too comfy.
That's going to be the big question for Nightmare Rotation is, do they look to take you to maps that are going to be more favorable to play their unorthodox compositions and get dirt in there? Or do they look to, maybe they want to play... I'm not sure. It feels like if we have to go to a map where we're forced to play Mauga, it's going to be tough for them to beat something like the Bobcats who've been playing and scrimming this composition against other collegiate teams for such a long time now. But I don't know. It's just because the power's all in their hands. It's not like we know we're going to hybrid next and they get to pick a hybrid map. They can literally pick any map they want.
Exactly. And it's been interesting to see how teams have used that power, right? Because it's almost developed its own level of mind games where it's like, okay, initial thoughts, right? If you're going to play fast, you don't want to get anteed up, you can pick a mode like Flashpoint or Clash where you're forced to play fast. But do you immediately go to that mode? Do you instead try to pick a escort map that maybe you're not as confident on, but just to remove escort from the pool, and if you win it, then it's just an added bonus? Like, it's added such an extra layer of strategy to the game that I feel like, some teams have taken advantage of massively, and we've seen it pay off in some series, but also, some teams, they're still stuck in their old ways. They still think, okay, we have to go to a hybrid map regardless of the setup here, and I feel like it's that level of adaptation that needs to come through for teams to really hit that next level.
As only time will tell to see where this series takes us next, but the favorite Bobcats taking a nice 1-0 lead in the series wasn't as clean as they were probably hoping, but at the end of the day, they got the job done. They kind of are playing, compositions. I mean, it's Nightmare Rotation. No matter, what the meta is, they're going to find something interesting. It may not be necessarily dirt on that Roadhog, but I mean, they had Matt Merck on the Sigma at some point. They had, the Junker Queen coming out. They had Doomfist. They had, lots of different things on their plate. And I think BSC has done what they needed to adapt to it well. I think Peace being on the Pharah was a big adaptation. I mean, they did have the Ashe at one point to try and help deal with that. But it felt like in the long run, they necessarily didn't have enough skill on that hit scan to be able to deal with Peace in the air. So that Pharah just did so much.
I couldn't agree with you more, right? That Pharah was just raining rockets time and it felt like that maybe it was sort of a counter pick of sorts where you just sort of were applying that pressure into these unorthodox comps, right? I mean, they started out on Bastion there for some reason. But speaking of Omnix here, we're going to go to the site of one where one was famously killed. I guess maybe not the best way to bring it up, but it is King's Row with our lovely Mondada statue.
You got better ears than me. I didn't even hear that one. I literally typed in our chat which map because I didn't even hear them whisper that or whatever. But King's Row is where we're going, which from what we've seen of this map, generally speaking, I have only seen mostly Mauga and Junker Queen. I mean, we've had, in certain situations, we've seen divas and stuff like that pulled out, but I think 95% of the time it's either Mauga or Junker Queen. And normally it's like Junker Queen to like get a quick first point and then they swap to Mauga. But let's talk about this defense from Nightmare Rotation. They're immediately, at least as it sits, coming out on an Orisa composition.
Yeah, the Orisa and the Bastion together here. I think with Nightmare not wanting to play into the Mauga and Bobcats then trying to counter comp from there, you're going to see maybe a lack of Mauga in this game, which I'm sure nobody's upset about. But with this Bastion, I mean, really, this is going to be all about bursting down Pantera on the tank, right?
Yeah, it's going to be the big question is when they see, Orisa, Zen, Bastion, Sim, do you still look to play a Winston as manually as on this Widow? And they even have a Mercy Pocket for them to be able to try and find picks. So if you are Nightmare Rotation, no peekies.
Yeah, do not peek just like that, Harmony. We were saying it. Unfortunately, you can't hear us here in the past future. Anyway, that is a beautiful opening for the dive to come through. Bobcats, they did have to go back to spawn momentarily, make some swaps, that Mercy and Winston both swapping, like you said. Now the Doomfist incredibly low. Peace actually followed up on by some beautiful shots from Plato is going to make it incredibly hard. The Orisa is anteed up. That Immortality Field is the only thing keeping her alive right now. That Widow's getting better positioning, though, trying to fire onto these angles towards Hotel, and now Matt Merck is going to try to play underneath that Widow, not allow that hit scan to truly take shots at her head, but now she runs out into the open where manually can do just that. It's simply a matter of time, it feels like, before another head gets clicked here, but the entirety of Bobcats is under fire thanks to this Orisa's raw damage. Now Matt Merck actually isolating themselves almost on their own as a Kiriko and a Doomfist directly in their face. That Fortify can keep them alive for the minute, but Bandit coming up with 2, removing the DPS line here, might have just bailed Nightmare Rotation out of a bad situation as Matt Merck still manages to go down, so I feel like they're gonna have to give progress, at least for now.
Definitely, with no beefy Orisa on your front line to be able to deal with a lot of this damage. The Nano also goes on a Pantera, who's just trying to play this front line, but they're now just barely getting on the point. So maybe you get a tick here before Nightmare Rotation looks to come back. I mean, they haven't fully regrouped, so you probably get 2 ticks before they re-engage, but you do have a Kitsune Rush to work with.
We'll have to see if that investment comes through. Now it's going to be the Terror Surge that you have to worry about. It's another Immortality Field keeping Matt Merck alive, but when you're punched out of it, it just means that manually can rip your head off just like that. 4v4 situation. Now the Artillery Strike trying to do what it can. Unfortunately, that ultimate is just not good enough. A Transcendence, but Bandit, there's no one left for you to heal. Manually's taking care of everybody, and Bobcats will get this point unlocked.
Valiant effort to take up half the time on that clock, so if nothing else, it did take, the Bobcats half their time to be able to get that. You're going to have a window from Chosen. If the question is, do they look to try and change things at all? They do have Bandit, who was on the Zenyatta, going over to the Kiri, which I think is a smart decision with how much value we've been seeing out of these Proto nades. That cleanse is going to be very important.
It's a requirement at this point, right? Now Matt Merck again charging forward a little bit, almost isolating from the team, but now backing up at the hands of this rocket punch, making sure nothing else comes forward. The Doom slamming in, trying to find one. The Bastion so incredibly low with a Sleep Dart will be followed up on it. Now that Kitsune Rush, like you said, thrown in, a punch to the face of the Kiriko here, but not getting that kill just yet, as still the rest of the team sent reeling, and Bobcats, they're just going to keep it moving.
Again, it's just clinical, and Pantera can take out the Bastion early and force out Immortality Field. That's just a lot. Not only is it a lot of damage with the Bastion gone, but that's your one survivability tool to work with. Is great patience from Plato there on the Bastion to wait out the block, forces out the Doomfist ult, as you're going to have to regroup because you're down Nenwai on that Kiri.
I mean, yeah, very chaotic fight, but finally, like you said, that regroup does have to come through without that Kiriko. Pantera so incredibly low. It's going to now be a nano boost onto Manually, trying to make this overclock into something more than it can be, though. A Terra Surge and all the Orisa block in the world is going to really put the damper on that. A beautiful TP onto the Ana to get Proto out of there, and finally, Nightmare Rotation get a stake in this defense.
Honestly, a beautiful sim wall coming out from the side of Harmony. It completely negated Manually's nanoed overclock. And they get a pick onto Nenwai and Peace. This is just beautiful coming out from Nightmare Rotation. Still just under 2.5 minutes for Bobcats, and they only got to win one more fight. But these next couple fights, Window and Kitsune Rush available to you if you're Rotation.
Tons of tools available. We'll have to see what ends up getting invested. Now the Kitsune Rush is going to be the first thing out. Pantera quick to fall after that one, and you're seeing Matt Merck wants more blood, but simply is going to have to be satisfied with what they got here as the rest of Bobcats back up.
They do get Proto as a late pick as well, so considering I was a little worried and trepidatious about how early that was for the Kitsune Rush, they got enough out of it to justify it. So now they can look to play back and play with this window.
But first, the Artillery Strike coming in from Plato. This one never really comes up with it kills, but it can displace people, and actually Manually ends up going down to it here, and it finds one onto Nenwai, who just ends up standing in it. Now the Genji found in a corner by Matt Merck as the Orisa walks forward here again, and this defense is getting very proactive as the payload just rolling back. Now the Ana under fire here. Proto can't even throw out a Bionic Grenade to save their own lives, just going to be removed from the equation. Pantera does manage to answer back, so it's a 4v4, but we'll have to see how much this attack really wants to commit without their Ana. Now just running back, keeping everybody safe for the time being. This Doomfist, Pantera looking for the slam in, gets a pretty decent amount of damage, but now they've already forced their own block, and now they're standing in front of a Bastion with no block in sight. The Blade coming out for a piece, but so incredibly low is the Genji at the hands of the Terror Surge. Will finally get that a limb. It is Manually who got a pick on this Hanzo, but you need more than that to turn this fight around, I think. and so now it is just going to be Bobcats forced to try to run away and reset and hold angles.
This is continuing to look so much better for rotation. Big Anthony coming in, but it doesn't matter at this point. You're going to have a Simwall, you're going to have a window, you're going to have a Kitsune Rush. Bobcats are running out of answers with this Doomfist comp.
It's being solved slowly but surely by the Nightmare rotation, and so being aware of that as we're coming into what could be final fight here. 20 seconds on the clock, and Nano Doomfist is in, but it's actually Nenwai comes up with the first pick on the Chosen, being able to take out your fellow backliner as Pantera goes down, so no tank is absolutely brutal. This Kiriko trying to do God's work and actually get some help from manually a long-range arrow now with a Dragon Strike being chucked in, but it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whereas Plato, it's just the opposite, raining in this damage. Genji has no deflect. That means these bullets can rain uncontested, and the end of point B is all Bobcats are going to have to their name.
That is a great spot for rotation to be able to get this. They put themselves in a amazing spot to try and tie up the series at 1 apiece. Problem is, I've seen a lot of teams get first point held, especially recently on King's Row. So it's definitely not over yet. You got to keep that in mind if you rotation. Great defense, but you can't let that get to your head. At any point, it feels like BSC could just click the Mauga button. They just haven't done it yet.
And maybe this will be the moment, right, where they realize they're running out of options. Their Doomfist, like you said, slowly being figured out makes it just that much harder to play. Plus, you know, Nightmare rotation, I mean, their namesake is rotation for a reason. It's going to have to be super key if you want to keep playing this Symmetra style. Your TPs are going to have to be on point. Nobody can get disconnected on an offense, right? A defense, you can split up a little bit. You can make and find value out of it in the best ways possible, but on the other side of things, Bobcats currently hovering a diva look to try to mitigate some of that damage.
I mean, the defense matrix can go a long way, and I think Peace going over to the Echo to try and have a lot of that burst damage and that focusing beam to get a beefier target like an Orisa down faster with that focusing beam is going to be a big deal. Same with Bastion, just making sure you can just have the burst damage to get rid of them fast and get that damage off the field.
Burst damage, like you said, it's going to be the name of the game for both these squads because they have it in two very different ways here. The walk forward slowly but surely for Nightmare rotation as they're slowly being surrounded all around. Now it's just Matt Merck a little bit far forward, not with the rest of the team there in time. Finally, they're going to try to get into Hotel, but Peace, like you said, there with the focusing beam, able to remove the Bastion. Now everybody's just stuck in this small little room for them to be shot on all sides. Quickly realizing they need to get out of dodge, Nightmare rotation hit a TP and wait for their Bastion.
Yes, that's going to be the one thing you have to be careful of if you decide Nightmare rotation. Keeping an eye on Peace at all times and not allowing that sticky focusing beam combo to eat your defenses alive, as Peace is already going to have a duplicate coming into this fight.
It builds so incredibly fast, you barely even notice it sometimes, but like you said, Peace can be a difference maker now, especially with a Sigma in play. Finds the teleporter, but actually nobody ends up going through it. Maybe a bait TP of sorts. Now the Sigma under fire catches a bunch of sticky bombs after having no gravitic grasp in their sight. Manages to take down Peace though in a massive way, and with a Diva D-Mech as well. Things are starting to look up for Nightmare rotation's attack. Sure, they're down their Bastion, but Niwai is still here trying to do what they can. It's a bit of a back and forth affair, not a clean attack just yet, but finally the cleanup's going to be there and at least some ticks will be on the board.
No, they probably get the point off of that. Very well played by the side of Nightmare rotation. Basically, Matt Merck was dead to rights, but both of the supports of Chosen and Bandit come through in a big way with a Suzu and an Immortality Field to keep them alive, and they're able to get the pickoffs because of that. So great supportive play.
Absolutely massive. Now Matt Merck is, trying to hold forward here. Has to be so incredibly careful. The kinetic grasp already wasted. Now the shield means the Immortality Field has to try to come out. Even the Amplification Matrix, but that extra healing is not going to be enough. And now the Nano Diva is going to push everybody off of that window and to make it so it's just impossible to use. And it's just going to be this push forward from Bobcats as they retake the choke with just a Nano Boost.
Oh, Mega, that whole fight where they committed Window and Kitsune Rush was nullified with just a Nano onto Pantera. That was a huge momentum shift for the side of the Bobcats, only committing one ult to just deal with both of those support ults.
And now looking at a potential spawn hold here, as it is going to be the Bastion again, trying to make something happen with this ultimate. It's going to be the Ana dropping out of the window there, down to safety, just predicting the wrong way. Bandit does manage to find Proto on that rotation though, so this is going to be Nightmare rotation, opening things back up, and the... Oh, okay, I thought it was an Ajax Kitsune rush there for a moment. I swear I heard the voice line, but I guess I'm just hearing and seeing things, as finally Bobcats, after losing Pantera's mech, are going to have to reset.
Traded out Bastion ult and Symmetra ult for Manuely's overclock. So, I mean, fair trades all across, but you do get past this archway if you decide of Nightmare rotation. Bobcats need to start pushing this issue. They need to take this fight at this next corner coming up and limit the amount of fights that rotation have to take in order to win this.
Yeah, I mean, the number of fights is going to be a massive factor here as the duplicate comes out. So now we have a second Sigma on the field here, trying to create some damage with that Gravitic Flux. Speaking of, though, it's going to come through from Matt Merck here, gets that duplicate out of the way, and now a very low D.Va as the D.Va bomb sitting right on the corner. Everybody has to hide in fear as that D.Va potentially looking for some rematch kills, but a beautiful anti onto everybody in that small room. Manually just going to be there to clean it all up. The rest of the Bobcats are there, and this defense is looking strong.
Woo! That was quite the cluster going on in that bookstore room. I was just like, what is going on here? I thought at first the Bobcats were about to get wiped, but Manually able to clean up in the end. Nano overclock available is Matt Merck. Now going to go over to the Zarya, which tends to be what people go to try and answer a D.Va who's been, you know, a nuisance.
A little bit of a nuisance here, as now they're taking the high grounds, realizing the bookstore hasn't had all that action in a long time. They don't want to repeat that process. Now it is going to be this control of high ground here. You're seeing the Bastion use turret form, trying to pressure out Pantera, and the Kitsune Rush will actually be delivered on the high ground here. Matt Merck goes forward, finds both supports on the Zarya, while Pantera is just out of position here. This high charge Zarya looking for more kills to their name. Pantera is going to be dismantled in the backline as the DPS run for their lives here, but Nightmare rotation are going to be able to break the choke.
As we're on the final minute and a half of this map, Pantera is now going to go over to the Reinhardt. We love Reinhardt Gaming. Oh, big staggers on a piece of Manual. You cannot afford to let that happen. So now you're in a situation, if you're the Bobcats, where Nightmare rotation only needs one more fight to make this a 1-1 series. You have done a great job at limiting this time bank, so they're really only going to get 2 or 3 more fights to make it happen, though.
Oh, the artillery strike is dropping on top of their heads. It forces the cleansing Suzu here. Somebody's gonna get out to this payload. They just don't touch in time. Bobcats, I mean, they was looking from bad to worse there, but you had a Reinhardt and Echo. Surely somebody could have coordinated, gotten onto that payload, but it seems like the overwhelming swap there, especially with the Zarya at the end, was just enough for Nightmare rotation to secure this map.
Wow. Absolutely devastating team fight there for BSC. To not get anybody to touch seems just absolutely mind-blowing. That's not what we expect out of BSC Bobcats, but Nightmare rotation, man, give them credit. They are doing a great job of playing compositions to continue to change things up and match what BSC Bobcats are trying to do, and it's working out well. The Zarya pick did a great job against the D.Va.
It did a great job, and will these counter swaps continue to happen, or will we find ourselves back in a standard meta? Well, we saw Proto at the end there, a little bit excited to go to the next map. I think we're going to have to pump the brakes on that one. We're going to have to let everyone cool off, give ourselves a 5-minute break. So, you know, take this time, get yourself a little snack or something, because it seems like we got a series on our hands here when we come back from the other side of this break.
Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this series. We are tied at 1 apiece after a resounding and exciting Kings Row match.
I don't know when I muted myself, but absolutely right. I mean, that King's Row, it was very interesting. We saw some compositions that you would not expect. Truly, you had to be there. But hey, who knows? Nightmare Rotation, they're more than capable of pulling out more of these silly strats. But like we were talking about during the break, Ray, it feels like, especially knowing what our next map is, this might be Bobcats saying, okay, we're done playing your silly game. Let's just do what we came here to do.
Yeah, so the next map is going to be New Junk City. So that tells me we're either going to see Junker Queen or Mauga. Either way, that is, I mean, Pantera is, before this Mauga meta came out, Pantera was a very, very talented Junker Queen player. And, you know, they're also just very good at the Mauga as well. So either one of those compositions are going to work very well for the side of BSC Bobcats. We did see Matt Merck play the Junker Queen back on Lijiang Tower. So if they match that mono-y-mono, that will be exciting.
It would be absolutely amazing to see here. But, you know, the Junker Queen versus the Mauga has sort of been a hotly contested matchup where the Rampage has to do a lot in some of these team fights, especially when you have tools like Orbital Ray on the board. That you have to absolutely, you know, take into account, right? Because as much as we talk about the tanks defining these metas, it really is the backline, right? With Juno being such a heavy sustain, normally paired with a Brigida, we've been seeing more of the Ana today. But overall, just either way, there's a bunch of healing going around, keeping everybody alive, keeping everybody healthy in the ways that they need to. And it's just such a difference maker.
As we will be getting you guys into this matchup extremely shortly. As mentioned, next map will be Flashpoint, so we're not likely to see any clash today, which is interesting because I've actually seen BSC Bobcats in the past take teams to clash because haha silly, we took you to the silly map and we can beat you at it. So but this time no more messing around with them. That's why I think this is where the line gets drawn. Enough is enough. Bobcats are looking to just wrap this up very quickly and get back to focusing on finals.
Yeah, but I mean, they have at least 2 more maps ahead of them, even if New Junk City goes their way here. And who knows? Well, I mean, I guess we already do know. We could see hero selection in Pantera. The aforementioned Samoan has been selected. Interesting what we're seeing hovered with it. Probably going to see Niwai switch last minute here. Nightmare rotation, though. I mean, I'm more than expecting them to play the Junker Queen, right? Matt Merck has showed that they do not like the Mauga, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But are they going to actually pair the Symmetra with it still? Or is this just TP?
This is the interesting part, is both teams are going to go to a Junker Queen mirror, which both teams extremely capable, as we see. What is that? Oh, okay. The graphics are all weird. Pieces did not look like a Genji there for a second. Pieces on the Genji, folks.
Yeah, no, I thought I saw a Marvel Rivals character, I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, we're into the thick of it here. Being able to swing that axe is actually Pantera coming away with the first pick onto Harmony here. So that Symmetra purely cut before that beam damage can start to build. Now Plato the next to follow. It seems like they actually just left Matt Merck in the dust and they choose to go after the rest of the team, and it was a recipe for success.
Well, if you're playing these Junker Queen compositions, the idea that Matt Merck had is totally fine. You want to go basically balls to the wall very fast looking for picks. The rest of the team just got overwhelmed by the Bobcats.
Overwhelmed is certainly the word for it. Now we're going back into another fight. Blink and you miss it. Bobcats are pushing the spawn. They really just might want to get this over with, like you were saying, Ray. I mean, oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. A switch can be flipped very quickly with this team. Matt Merck is now going to go over to the Zarya, which, you know, great answer. Manually is going to go down because, you know, the Zarya bubble can cleanse that bleed effect that the Junker Queen relies heavily on.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not realizing the Junker Queen just behind them, constantly shooting those shotgun shots with do tons of damage on their own right. Now it is going to be Bandit the next to fall here. The Zarya that's left standing here, trying to use that self bubble to find the damage to get Pantera picked, but it seems like that's not going to be the case. And Point A is just going to be capped away from it. Plato does manage to get one onto Proda here. These fights are happening so quick since they're happening in the spawn room here. Like you said, a switch has been flipped and the Bobcats are done playing around.
Point cap, now they have an ability to look to reset, get to the next one, and it's just going to be right here at bomb flat, so they're ready to just rotate, get on the point, and get ready to take the next fight. Still, no ults have been committed by the Bobcats, so they're going to have a nice and easy, basically 5 coming in this next fight. As rotation, especially with their tank swap, they're going to be lacking a little bit in the ult economy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be difficult for Nightmare Rotation to find victory here. Now that's already 3 ultimates invested for the side of Bobcats, looking for an elimination. Finally comes up with one onto Harmony here. Meanwhile, Pantera gets that other DPS out of the fight. Bandit has managed to find one onto Proto here, but, you know, there's still more work to be done if Nightmare Rotation want to find themselves back into this one. They seem to be willing to walk forward, though. This Zarya has one bubble to their name, getting closer and closer to the Graviton Surge, putting this Genji under pressure. Coming up massively here, and all of a sudden, you know, we're right back into it. The Rampage comes through it, ends up just connecting onto Matmerk, who can quickly cleanse that. A bit of an overstep, a misplay, if you will, from the Bobcats has allowed Nightmare Rotation to just come back into this without expending all too much.
So I would agree if Chosen didn't use beat. They had the cleanse for it, but they still committed the beat into that fight. So to me, it's still kind of worth it, especially when they were kind of hovering over possibly swapping. It looks like they are going to stick onto the Junker Queen, and now Peace basically gets a free blade.
Free blade indeed here, but we'll have to see how free it truly is, if it could get potentially grabbed up or get a deflect. No, he's caught in the grab like I was worried about. The Zarya didn't really need it for anything else, so hey, just chuck it. It absolutely works. This Lucio so incredibly low. Niwai finally going to be found by Plato, and it's just a beautiful cleanup here. Nightmare Rotation just handling this currently in spades right now.
Yeah, as Pantera is going to go down, they will have an opportunity probably to go for one more touch. Both DPS ultimates available for the side of Nightmare Rotation, however, as they're just going to look to get aggressive and not try and give the Bobcats a chance to touch.
Wanting to hand this over, like you said, trying to deny the touch overall, but it might be a Genji dash that gets them there. Nobody really able to make it just yet, besides, like I said, that Genji dash able to get a kill onto Plato while they were at it, and now with a second kill, make it a third. It is going to be Bobcats getting back into this point, willing to take another fight.
Yeah, 99% for the side of Nightmare Rotation. They didn't use any of their DPS ultimates, so they're still going to have those utilities in their tool chest to be able to use to try and get this back, because they only got to win one more fight. Manually, however, in the meantime, is going to have an overclock of their own, and Proto is very, very close to an orbital ray. With how quickly these percentages can tick up on Flashpoint, this orbital ray may just be the key to to stealing this point away from Nightmare Rotation.
Wanting to see if they can steal it. Now it's going to be an overclock to start things off here, along with a sim wall as well. Going to make it incredibly difficult for manually try to fire back with an overclock of their own. So neither Sojourn coming up with the kills just yet. Nice little TP onto point being a distraction, but Chosen actually going to be the thing to start things off here. Now having to try to kite Prota's orbital ray is dangerous here. Health bar starting to get a little bit low on the side of Nightmare Rotation without that Kiriko, but the damage is being done, so they're just going forward time and again here. Pantera able to get one as they depart here, but it seems as though Nightmare Rotation, they've cleaned something up, because we're tied up one apiece.
Yeah, that Kitsune rush by Bandit, despite going down, was enough to get those cooldowns back fast enough, especially with the Zarya, who needs that bubble uptime, gets those back faster, able to keep that charge up, and able to get the picks very quickly. And now you're going to have Grav online. This Rampage from Pantera is pretty much nullified by not only bubbles, but the cleanse available from the side of Bandit.
It's looking worse and worse for the Junker Queen. Like you said, it is going to be Pantera trying to go into the backline here, but ends up getting grabbed up and soloed body block, so no healing can come through. Harmony does pay for it on the other side of things with their own life, but that's a trade you'll take any day of the week. That Symmetra move removed from the situation. Now a 4v4 on point. Batmerk trying to walk forward with some decently high charge, looking for eliminations. Doesn't end up coming with any yet. And now Nazaria's health bar is going from bad to worse. The rally investment comes out from Niwai in a beautiful way here. Now the tank missing is on the other foot, as the cleanup is there for the Bobcats, and they're going to be able to get the first cap.
Yeah, that's a late beat coming in from Chosen to try and keep Matt Merck alive. And I feel like once you saw Matt Merck going down, the beat should not have been committed, because once again, Peace can just look to slice and dice, because now there's no grab to stop him this time around. So this should be a successful opportunity for Peace to make something happen. Basically 4 ults coming on for the Bobcats as they just look to continue to build this point percentage.
Building point percentage just looking great for them so far here because they still have all of these ults to work with, like you said. But Plato takes manually out of the fight. Now it's going to be an overclock from Plato, trying to continue to turn this tide, but it seems like they're not going to come up with another elimination. Rampage comes through, the anti's applied, the blade is extra on top of that beautiful served up play here. Plato will get one for their troubles, but it seems like that's all they're going to get as Matt Merck is the final one to fall.
Because of that, that's going to be a point cap for the side of Bobcats, so they only need one more to try and get this series back in their favor at 2-1. They're going to have an orbital ray and a overclock to work with. But the good thing is Harmony should be able to get this sim wall up in time to limit a lot of what this overclock can do. But the orbital ray can move, Mega Savid. As long as you move with it, you can get past that Symmetra shield.
Yeah, you can do exactly that here, so we'll have to see, you know, where it's placed, and as long as it's moving along the wall, like you said, everybody teleporting, not wanting to be in the middle of this fight, realizing Bobcats was already lapping at Nightmare Rotation's heels. Now just some poke happening back and forth across the point. Both teams looking for an opportunity to use one of these ults as a perfect engage. It's going to be the overclock from Manually, though, to start things off here. Already forced some bubbles out, but Manually catches a rail to the head and is going to have to hide. Pantera, again, missing from the fight, but that orbital ray is invested. But now it's moved too far away for anybody on the side of Bobcats to play inside of it. A Graviton means that Peace will be missing from the fight, but a Rally is trying to keep everybody stable as Niwai is on the point here. It's a back and forth affair. Both teams investing heavily, but it seems like Nightmare Rotation are coming out ahead. They sustained through the rally, and now they should be able to find this pick onto the Brigida, unless some beautiful rotations actually get Bobcats out.
Very, very good situations coming out from the side of Rotation to be able to make that happen. We do have Plato, who's on the Ash now, which is an interesting little wrinkle in the situation. Beat available for Chosen. Things are looking up for Nightmare Rotation.
Things are looking up for them indeed, especially with that pick. Harmony removing Manually. Again, it feels like the Symmetra is finding such insane value. Matt Merck now getting some extra kills as well with the help of Chosen on the edge of the map there. And it seems like Nightmare Rotation are still in control.
It didn't really cost them anything. They used no ults, no nothing, still have that beat, as the Bobcats a little bit reeling here, as I feel like what you need to do is probably get onto this point and try and force some ults out. You're likely going to lose this point, but you want to get as many of those tools out of Rotation's hands for the final point as possible.
We'll have to see, depending on sort of the strategy, but Harmony again finds another pick onto this DPS line. Bandit a little bit out of position. I'm not really sure why the Kiriko is in. It is all the way over here of all places, and it seems like Bobcats are just going to get a free flip and another chance to win it here.
Wow, I'm very surprised they're able to win that fight. I mean, they even used the beat in that fight and still got nothing. Manually finds the exiting pick on a Harmony as well, so just more free percentage gain. You're still going to have a Kitsune Rush, a grab, and you're coming up on Bob, but the Bobcats can still look to win it here. They're coming up on all 5 to work with.
All 5 indeed, so Nightmare Rotation, you know, trying to see what's going to have to end up being invested here. Another solo grab onto the tank. Pantera will be followed up on, but now Peace is going to try to use that blade to great success. Already found 2, gets a 3rd in the hands of the orbital ray, and now Matt Merck getting a little bit staggered here and left without the rest of their team.
70% and counting. One final fight for Nightmare Rotation to keep their hopes alive on this map. Bob and Symmetra wall available at their disposal. Manually will have the overclock and a rally for Nenwai, and likely a rampage as well for Pantera, as we see Matt Merck going to the Doom.
Matt Merck going to the Doomfist, trying to get a touch on this point, but actually not even able to make it there in time. Unfortunate rollout that got pulled by the Junker Queen knife, and Bobcats, they take the map in the way that they wanted to. Maybe not as dominant, but they get the job done, and now find themselves one map away from a trip to the Grand Finals.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was expecting. We were expecting when they picked a map like this, they would either come out on the Malga or the Junker Queen, 2 of the, you know, more meta style compositions that are being played right now, and that they would just come out and look to dominate. It was 3-1, so I mean, you'll take that every day, and like we mentioned, now you're on match point.
Being able to be on match point already is massive here. Sure, Nightmare Rotation, they can get their pick of maps, but you know, there's still so much more work to be done. They're counter comping, you know, while it's been working out for them, right? I mean, that's how they were able to win King's Row, especially with the Zarya look that looks so strong. I mean, against the Jungler Queen on some of these rush maps, you just can't, you know, continue to run it successfully. So you have to be a little bit more careful with everything that's going on. Meanwhile, Bobcats, you know, I'm not going to say smooth sailing because you have had some hiccups here and there, but right now it's looking pretty damn solid for you.
As for Nightmare rotation, this is, I mean, it's not over because no matter what, losers going to loser bracket. They're not out yet. This is winners finals. It's just team looking to punch their ticket into the grand finals. As I kind of mentioned, I feel like it's that much more important for the Bobcats because they're dealing with finals and stuff like that. But either team, it's important because they're going to have much more time to try and figure out this meta that's coming tomorrow.
Exactly, right? And, you know, that's looming on everybody's mind. Just exactly what meta changes we're expecting to see tomorrow, because it could completely turn everything on its head. But we have to still just, again, keep ourselves here and now. And an interesting pick for Nightmare rotation, because they've chosen Shambali Monastery as our next map. So they're going into the escort pool. And this is also determining, you know, if they're able to get a win here, right? It's going to give Bobcats only a choice of the push maps to end our series out on. So making a double decision here for Nightmare rotation. And I mean, you can get away with some extra TPs. There's a lot of very unique places that you can go with these little TP strats that they've been piloting all night long, but I just worry about it being figured out.
Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. My bad. But as we mentioned, Bobcats looking to end this right here, right now. The map pick, however, is in control of the side of Nightmare rotation. We do know that Bobcats have elected to play defense, which, based on that, means we're probably going to escort for the next map, which actually, I think they actually do, because then we would go back to control for the next map. So Shambali Monastery is where we're going.
Yeah, and like I said, it's very interesting with Shambali being the next pick up here, right? Because, you know, this is going to actually enable, I feel like, more strats to come out for the side of Bobcats, right? If they want to lean into maybe some of their more hit scan options, leave that Sojourn continuing to do what they can, as well as, you know, maybe even an Ashe if you're feeling frisky about it. It gives you some options, right? I'll be interested to see what tank Pantera ultimately ends up on here, because I feel like it's been a lot of tank counter swapping back and forth. But I think one adaptation I'm not surprised to see is both teams now running the Kiriko, as the antis have just been a little too much for either squad to deal with.
BSC Bobcats hoping to just have a nice first point spawn hold, try and make this work. They are going to play Reinhardt, which is very interesting, with Anakiri, which normally you have some sort of speed element, whether it's a Gino or a Lucio with the Ryan, so none of that available. But I mean, they're finding picks immediately.
Picks immediately, like you said here, manually getting that one onto Plato here. Like I said, I worry that Nightmare rotation has been found out, as everybody on Bobcats is just currently encircling the spawn like a bunch of hungry sharks looking for their next meal. Plato is going to have to be careful about peeking their head out. They just seem to not really care about. They just simply are willing to charge that rail time and again manually realizing it's time to leave, though, as we have a Reinhardt duel for this spawn hold. But interestingly enough, Bobcats actually not opting in for the full spawn hold experience. Instead, they're going to back up. They clearly want to actually pilot this comp as long as they can. DY is going to be able to open it up, and that's going to be a second pick here. Sure, you lose Pantera, but it seems like Pantera's just been the noble sacrifice for a lot of this series so far.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of picks still coming through. I mean, it will force Bobcats to, I say that, they are still playing extremely aggressively. Like, you don't have your tank, but it seems like they do not care. They're still going to look for picks.
I mean, yeah, just keep it rolling. That's exactly, you know, what you should be doing in these situations. Nightmare rotation now is trying to do what they can. in seeing their potential options, right? A beautiful anti is going to be applied onto both Harmony and Plato, and finally those DPS will be followed up on by the supports of all things. A pin, oh my goodness, that Kiriko had a frame-perfect TP to escape certain death. And Matt Murr, okay.
As he just, excuse me, as he's just going to accept his fate there. Nightmare rotation, still trying to figure out something to do. As Matt Merck's now going to go over to the Winston, which I mean, like if you can get on top of Proto, I mean, they find Proto without not even needing Matt Merck to dive in yet.
Yeah, and so that's a good opening here, removing that Ana from the fight. Now the Winston's so incredibly low. Matt Merck has to play inside of this Immortality field, wait for that Baptiste healing to come through. Now you're seeing this artillery strike. It actually manages to get an elimination, remove it. Oh, wait, on the roof. If that had killed the Echo, that would have been damn impressive, but a Nightmare rotation seemed to have broken the spawn hole.
It only cost them their Bastion ult, which is pretty good. That Anti is going to come in, but they're able to heal it up and make things work. Lots of ults still available for Bobcats. They haven't used anything. The Nano comes in onto Pantera.
A Nano boost onto the Reinhardt. Now with a Shatter to follow means that Baptiste is going to be flat on his back. Nothing you can do there. The Fire Strike's following it up. The Winston, the last one to die, but they certainly will die regardless. Oh, I say that, and the Sojourn was just, or the Ahri rather, was just sort of hiding out.
As we're going to be looking at final minute on the clock for Nightmare rotation. They'll have a Captive Sun and a Symmetra wall to work with, while the Bobcats have both of their DPS ultimates. So the Sim wall can do a lot to try and limit what manually can do on the overclock, but they don't really have much to deal with Peace's dupe. Question is, who do you look to dupe in this situation?
Yeah, who are you looking to indeed here? Now a 4v4 on the point. Pantera once again missing as this overclock from manually trying to rip some skulls off, doing a lot of damage, getting so incredibly low is Bandit, but able to live behind that wall for the time being. But Peace actually is in the backline, managed to do the damn job, getting rid of both those characters. So incredibly low though, as Chosen has found one onto Proto here. But it seems like with Nightmare rotation only having 20 seconds left, it's going to take pretty much a miracle for them to truly get out of their own spawn.
Yeah, but 4 ults in their back pocket for this. If the Bobcats just look to die on point here, yeah, they're going to look to do that with a dupe from Peace.
Yeah, and so that's why you're seeing now Chosen trying to hide on the roof here from those kunai. And it's going to be so incredibly difficult as now that pin comes through. Doesn't actually connect on anything before getting canceled here. And as the payload moves up the hill, it is Pantera who is ultimately going to be a sacrifice once again. Nightmare rotation is getting kill after kill here. There we go, investing the Kitsune Rush all alone. And it's being mirrored. What incarnation am I looking at? Dueling Kitsune Rushes, neither really needed. But I guess Nightmare rotation, they get over the line.
Yeah, I don't know if they just felt like things were getting tight and things were getting in their head and they go, no, we're just getting this point, and we'll just wanted that exclamation point. I mean, it did its job, but you're really, really, really hoping you could have had that to try and get you some more distance on the second point here, which can be extremely hard, and you're only going to have 2 minutes to be able to do that.
2 minutes on the clock here. Matt Merck is already gotten a kill onto manually here. Now the Reinhardt feeling a little bit out of place, has to get away from that Sim, not let Harmony charge up. Another artillery strike finding its way into the back line, but you see the Baptiste getting a nice little jump with the Exo Boots, able to live for the time being. Now this Winston potentially could be looking for a Primal Rage, but Pantera on the other side of things does have a Shatter that's not going to come up in time here. Plato will pay for it with their lives standing inside of that Sojourn ability, not able to do much of anything else here. It is Matt Merck constantly just being alone, choosing to go in anyway without the rest of the team. This Primal Rage trying to come up with something, but these healers are just doing, you know, what they do best, providing support. But it seems like Peace just being behind these walls actually was not enough here. Now it is going to be with that pick onto Peace, a bit of a regroup situation, but the Shatter, it connects onto 2. Immortality field beautifully placed from Proto though to keep everybody alive. No push forward from the side of the Bobcats. Now Amplification Matrix being used way in the backline by Proto on a bit of a flank, managed to find one onto Chosen before they pay the ultimate price at the hands of Plato here, being traded back and forth. Now Plato evens up the fight, 3v3 situation, make that a 2v2 towards the point. Just this Sojourn and Kiriko in the face of a Winston. It's going to be another Kitsune Rush investment and an overclock as well, and it's going to send Matt Merck and the rest of Nightmare rotation reeling.
still a huge investment to keep that point alive, both the overclock and the Kitsune Rush, as we see Pantera, who's now swapped over to the Mauga, as Matt Merck's going to go over to the Junker Queen. Both Window and Kitsune Rush available for the side of Nightmare Rotation, and Proto has gone down.
Proto now missing, and you're running out of time, so you have to be unbelievably careful here for both these squads, right? You're heading towards what could be final fight territory for this round. Now it's going to be the run forward here. Bandit using that Kitsune Rush. It's going to be now 2 Junker Queens on the field, but Pantera immediately blown up on that Mauga. That duplicate soon to follow, and Plato's overclock is doing exactly what it needs to here, getting kill after kill. Proto on the respawn, going to be sent back once again, and again, Nightmare Rotation at the 11th hour gets the payload over the line.
Cost them a lot, but they needed to secure that second point. I feel like if they didn't get that second point, it might be all but over, so they give themselves big opportunity to try and cap all 3 points and keep their hopes alive of bringing this to a map number 5. Pantera has now swept over the Sigma, as Matt Merck said, hey, I did this on Lijiang Tower. I'm willing to match you.
Yeah, I mean, exactly how it goes here with these sort of tanks being able to read each other, get the swaps going. Now, back and forth here, the payload being hotly contested. No kills have come through just yet. The disruptor shot into the backline, as well as a good anti, is going to force the cleansing Suzu out. Matt Merck has to be a little bit more defensive, a little bit more careful. Sombra Hat comes through, but Harmony is going to be the first one to fall here. Now an overclock being invested from Manually, trying to find some heads. So incredibly low is everybody in that corner, and it's going to force them right back into Manually sightlines, getting 2 kills. Niwai gets a trade, and with Matt Merck sent back to spawn, Nightmare Rotation have 1 fight left.
And because of all these points being completed in overtime, Matt Merck makes a swap over to Winston, but there's only 1 more fight opportunity for them to make, but they're going to have 4 ultimates to be able to do that as the Kitsune Rush comes out, but Nedwai has gone down.
Gone down and missing your Kiriko in action here in the spawn, but is anybody going to be able to get over to the payload despite all of these amazing picks that Nightmare Rotation's getting? They do manage to get people there in time. Now this Sombra, whether they're aware of it or not, is lurking behind, trying to do a little bit of reconnaissance damage, but it seems like it's not going to be the case, as Peace is still just back here trying to find one on the Chosen, as Pantera goes down incredibly late, missing your Sigma, but more importantly missing that gravitic flux for this final fight could be devastating the payload, inching its way forward. Someone's going to have to finally contest. It could be the nano boosted Zen, as now the overclock's coming out from Plato, but an EMP into the backline is going to make it incredibly hard for Plato to live. Just like that, Manually finds one, and they might not even need their Sigma, who's fluxing out of spawn, but it seems like just the end of point C is all Nightmare Rotation have to give.
That's still an incredible distance for Nightmare Rotation to be able to get, considering how first point was going. For them to be able to get it that far, they put themselves in a position to force this map number 5. Now, how did they look to respond on this defense? How did the Bobcats look to do here? Because that first point was so dominating, then you just continued to let Nightmare Rotation inch their way back into it, and they, as said, considering how that was going, they got so much distance on that. So the Bobcats, man, it backs against the wall. I mean, yes, you have a map 5 if this map doesn't go your way, but you want to end this right here, right now.
Absolutely, and it seems like they were just, like you said, they gave ground. They got a little bit too big for their britches, I think the old school saying would be. And it just became so unbelievably difficult at points, right? Nightmare Rotation was definitely figuring things out. The counter swaps on counter swaps occurring here now. For the defense, I mean, this is a defense if I've ever seen it. A Winston with a Bastion Symmetra. Could you explain this in any rational way?
They're expecting Manually to play hit scan and, you know, Peace maybe on a Genji or an Echo, so they want Winston to be able to dive those things. But they also expect Pantera to be on, you know, maybe a Winston to match them, and they just want a lot of burst. I don't know. It's very strange. It's Nightmare Rotation. It's stuff to be expected from them.
I mean, things to be expected, a Roadhog in this series. On the side of Bobcats, not so sure here, but Pantera has left the spawn room, now going on a very long flank as Peace has found one onto Plato, removing that Bastion with the help of those sticky bombs. Now a good anti being applied. Now it's a 4v4 though, as Bandit is trading. And now this Roadhog has finally made the full rotation, misses that first hook, but hey, listen, we all get a second try, maybe, probably. But the rest of the Bobcats has fallen by the wayside here after Pantera has made a very lengthy stagger, it seems.
Yeah, not a big fan of that opening Roadhog. I mean, Nightmare Rotation is the king of the Roadhog, so they know exactly what you'd be looking to try and do in that situation. It's like Pantera's going to stick to it, which is quite a decision here. I thought, you know, maybe they'd try it once and swap, but no, they're sticking to it.
Sticking to it for the time being. The Bobcats now, you know, trying to figure out how this Roadhog comp is going to work for their attack. Just trying to see as we walk forward here. Plato does manage to find one onto Peace, but the Sojourn is under fire so incredibly low. Is Plato needs some intense healing from the backline, which they will manage to get, but at the cost of Chosen, who Niwai, again, being this TPS Kiriko, gets one in the fight, but it seems like they'll have to pay their own life for it. Now, Matt Merck trying to zone both DPS out, but you don't have your Baptiste here, just a Kiriko to try to do the healing, and so you have to wait for Bandit as this payload slowly moving in. A beautiful hook will actually get the Winston out. Not dead yet, though. That monkey continues to live until Peace has something to say about it, and this payload's going to keep on walking. Another missed hook in a chaotic fight back and forth here, but it seems like Bobcats are going to be moving the payload.
Yeah, decent amount of distance has been gained. Proto's going to have to look to find some good nades. The problem is Bandit's been doing a good job at cleansing them, but they found Plato.
They found Plato, and now they're looking for more here with that Immortality Field wasted as well. This Nano Boost, it just could have been massive with that hook landing there, but unfortunately the Winston just a little too swift on their feet. Now it is going to be a Kitsune Rush invested from Niwai, as well as a duplicate from Peace in the backline. Means it's coming up all Bobcats right now, being able to make that Chosen amplification matrix come up with not a zilch, as point A is going to get capped.
Listen, I saw Dirt was in the chat, and I'm sure he's like wishing he was in here, being able to match this Roadhog with them and being able to play it against them, foaming at the mouth, fear, not only foaming at the mouth, but FOMO, fear of missing out, and being able to be in this Roadhog duel. I mean, we're going to have a lot for both teams. I'm looking at these dueling overclocks between Plato and Manually, because they've been having this back and forth battle, so I want to see who gets the better end of it.
Better end of it, trying to walk forward, looking at it. Now it is just going to be a bit of a DPS duel, but Harmony comes out on the better of that one. A whole hog ultimately invested for nothing, as the Primal Rage now being thrown in for Matt Merck to take a bit of a nap. Niwai tries to peek back in to get the kill, and instead is met with an angry monkey who's awake and ready to find some vengeance. And Bobcats are going to be going back to spawn, and Pantera finally realizes Roadhog might not be for him.
Yeah, I was wondering when they'd finally make that swap. It looks like after the Roadhog ultimate, Peace is also now going to go over to the Genji. We saw him have great success with that on New Junk City. Gonna be tough. You know, the sim turrets can definitely be a nuisance, so you just gotta be careful to clear those before you make any strong pushes.
Being careful, being mindful, as they say here. Plato is antied up, gonna get a nice cleanse. Now allows that overclock to rain freely here. Manually, not realizing they were dropping directly into the line of sight of it. Beautiful Winston bubble should keep everybody else healthy for the time being, but this Ana so low, so under pressure. Everybody has to try to stay safe, and they will do it for the time being. Matt Merck in a little too deep, has to jump back to those supports again. Another cleansing Suzu used here, as Peace is gonna have to give up control of this high ground. Constantly raining down from above. Bobcats are trying to find their advantage in this one. It might be Niwai's Kitsune Rush so deep in. Peace gets one onto Plato, looking for more here before Niwai ends up going down themselves. That Merc just standing in the middle of a Kitsune Rush, never where you want to be as a Winston. Now the overclock is on the other foot, manually trying to fire off shots here. It is going to just simply be the Immortality Field officially claimed here as the payload moves.
As the cart is going to round the final corner, Nano still available for the Bobcats to use here. They might need to do it. They got some players low. They do have to use it.
Yeah, and that Nano boost onto you know, manually trying to keep them alive. It's so incredibly low. It still is the Sojourn. It did mean that Bandit fell in the backline here, but actually, you know, it's still trades back and forth happening here on the point, but it seems like Nightmare Rotation is finally coming out ahead in this situation thanks to the help of that Amplification Matrix. Pantera actually invests the Primal Rage, though, wants to try to end this one here, and now gets 2 to their name, beating the Winston off the card. That way nobody can push it, but nobody's there from your side to push it either, so you have to be so incredibly careful of your Pantera. These defense spawns are just closer right now, so it seems like that Primal Rage, while looking heroic, while looking powerful, was just not enough. The respawns are now there for both teams. A Bastion going to be trying to shred through. Same with this Dragon Blade from Peace. Finds one, looking for a second. It's boots back, but it gets the supports in the way that it needs to, and it's all blue in the kill feed now as Bobcats move themselves into point C.
And that was all about Pantera buying time and getting 2 with that Primal Rage. So you were in an advantageous situation and allowed to get aggressive with that blade. Wow. Just when you thought, you know, you're like this, you know, heroic, but it actually ended up being very heroic.
Absolutely crazy here. Start to finish. Now this Kiriko a little bit out of position, needs to use that switch step to get away right into Plato's line of sight, so not exactly the safest teleport in the world. Now it is a 4v4, but missing that Kiriko is so crucial to this offense. They may just have to call a reset here. They certainly have the time to do it, but it's this, again, this back and forth poke affair. Both teams looking for an opportunity. Peace is so incredibly low, now going to be followed up on an Immortality Field, keeps everybody nice and healthy for the time being, and constantly the attackers are missing one member here time and again. It's so incredibly difficult, but Bobcats are going to reset.
Especially with a minute 20 on the clock, you're going to get 2 good attacks at it, and Bobcats have finally realized there's not really a hit scan to be had for the side of rotation. It feels very similar to Lijiang Tower, so they pull out the Pharah.
Yeah, and the Pharah, but also a Nano Boost onto manually. I mean, this feels a little bit repetitious at this point. The Immortality Field broken here. Prota is going to be felled at the hands of Bandit here. And actually, Nightmare Rotation, they're living the storm right now. Being able to make it so that Nano Overclock did jack all. Matt Burke coming up with 3 in the fight is going to put Bobcats back in their spawn room.
Oh, that's absolutely devastating for the side of the Bobcats. They're going to get 1 more crack at the whip. 1 clean team fight should be able to do it, but Rotation's going to have 4 ults to their name, while the Bobcats have to be able to do this with just the the Kitsune Rush and the Primal alone.
It's gonna be a Herculean task for sure. The Artillery Strike already out, looking to find some damage. Peace, so incredibly low, does manage to get healed up in time here. Now a 4v4, make that 3v4 as the attackers are missing members left, right, and center. It's just manually live. He's taken out, and it seems like game 5 was simply a guaranteed destiny here as Nightmare Rotation complete the hold.
Wow, wow, wow. Just all we could hope for in a winners finals matchup between the 2 best teams in the division, going to map number 5. Nightmare Rotation coming through in a big way.
Their unorthodox comps, the Symmetra, the Bastion, it's finding the work where it needs to. The rest of the team stepping up in massive ways every single time. Of course, on the other side of the coin, you know, it's no slouches. These Bobcats are putting in the damnedest of work, doing any and everything they can, but sometimes you're just a little bit out-muscled in these fights, and I don't even know where to, you can't even really assign blame, right? It's just 2 really good teams slamming into each other time and again, producing great results.
As Nightmare Rotation has forced a map number 5. And last time we were in the situation, the Bobcats were able to flip a switch, play the Junker Queen composition, and absolutely run away with the map. Will that happen again, or will Nightmare Rotation shenanigans continue to be in the heads of the Bobcats? We're going to find out who will win the series and punch their ticket to the grand finals right after this.
Lots of love. Love.
Feel my heart, it's beating. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. Feel my heart, it's beating. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me.
Alrighty, welcome on back, everybody. We have map 5 in our sights here as the Bobcats and Nightmare rotation. They simply have too much in them to go down to lower bracket, but somebody's got to after this map, and right now it really can be anybody's game here, as it's just been a back and forth affair.
As both teams, final opportunity, because our final map is going to be push. Almost impossible to draw on a map like this. So one team is coming out the winner, the other is coming out the loser, as we're going to have to see which team is that, as we do know what our final map is going to be, picked by the BSC Bobcats. push, as we mentioned, final map type, it is going to be Runasapi.
Yeah, and like you were mentioning, right? I mean, we've seen obviously a lot of Malga here, but just the brawl in general looks so good on this map. Tons of long sight lines. If you wanted to get your Sojourn and stuff into the mix, but overall, it's just chaotic. And like you said, last time we were in this situation back on New Junk City, sure, we were tied up one apiece, but coming into this, Bobcats, they found that extra gear to be able to take a map in pretty dominant fashion. And do you expect them to be able to do the same here?
It's kind of what the Bobcats are known for. Throughout a lot of their time in NECC Collegiate, they found themselves in a lot of Map 5 situations. Actually took out UCI Irvine in a Map 5 in the lowers bracket, trying to work their way to the NECC Division 1 Championship, which they did not ultimately get, but they knocked out UCI in Map 5 fashion. So this is not an unfamiliar position for them to be in. Same with Nightmare Rotation. I mean, they've been around for a long time. They've been there. They've done that. As we see, the Malga trigger has finally been pulled by the Bobcats.
Malga trigger. Feels like Nightmare Rotation maybe smells this one coming. That's why you see Matt Merck on the Sigma. If you're not going to run the Malga, this is the best way to try to live it long enough for your DPS to get something done, but it is going to be so incredibly difficult, right? Especially when you've got Peace and Manually still firing off. Going to be the charge first. Pantera going deep into the backline, catches a rock to the face, and now a hail of bullets from the Bastion means no cardiac overdrive will matter. A good pick onto an overextended tank to start this off for Nightmare Rotation, but they still have more work to do as Bobcats are actually the ones on the payload first.
That they are, as we see Pantera already making a swap over to the Junker Queen, which I think is going to be a little bit more of what the doctor called for. Again, specifically the Sigma. They're going to have to be able to move fast, though. They don't have any kind of speed outside of the ring for them. Normally, you'd run like a Lucio with this.
Normally the Lucio, but we do not see our favorite Brazilian here present right now. It is going to be this poke back and forth. Peace gets a nice pile of sticky bombs there, but it's actually going to be Plato who's able to take down DY in a barrage of bullets. So now it is going to be more of Nightmare Rotation doing what they do best, which is just cleaning house here. This Echo has been pinpointed. He can't get over those roofs efficiently, and you're just going to come right down, right back into Plato's sightlines.
As this has been absolute nightmare situation for the Bobcats, as their nightmare is rounding the final corner, looking to take the first point. We know how key that is in these maps, but as Bullskunk has told me time and time again, for a map like Runasapi, it is the most comebackable map in Overwatch.
I couldn't agree more. I say it all the time myself, but now with this Bastion going into turret form, if the Kitsune rush as well, Peace is going to be able to find one on to Harmony, and now this duplicate is trying to come up big before it's finally taken down here. Heavy investment coming out from both sides, but it seems like Bobcats have finally found a stabilizing factor here.
That they did, and they also got a lot of ults to be able to be committed from rotation. Both their tank and support ultimates are completely off the field, and you have some powerful weapons coming online for the Bobcats in that orbital array and rally at their disposal, and they're able to get the point back pretty quickly, so no close spawns for them to be had either, as Matt Merck's now going to go over to the Zarya.
Zarya has been the pick that's come out time and again in this series. Oh, but the Pharah just a little bit overextended again. These roofs are so hard to navigate between. The artillery strike coming in from above. Now gonna mean Proto is forced to use this orbital ray, trying to keep everybody healthy with a rampage to boot. Actually cleansed up pretty damn beautifully here. It's only gonna be the 1-for-1 trade on the tanks. Rally now being invested from Niwai here just to keep it going for the Bobcats, but they are finding themselves a little bit short-handed now with the Symmetra wall being thrown in as well, just shy of the checkpoint. No forward spawn secured. Nightmare Rotation will get back in control.
That they will, but I mean, you match the distance pretty close, and you're just buying your team that much more time to be able to get back, as Peace is going to want to play. I would say that has been Peace's one issue, that he hadn't needed to be worked on. Is sometimes he can find himself very much so overextended, and that's what happened, and that really opened up the fight for Nightmare Rotation.
Or something to watch out for sure here. Sebastian goes into turret form, knocked out of position by Peace, aforementioned on the far right. Harmony's going to be the first one to fall thanks to the hand of that Junker Queen knife. We now have a Junker Queen mirror on our hands at some point, but it seems like Bobcats, they have the damage done to be able to win this fight outright. That's going to be Peace and Pantera, the P's teaming up to get this win and get the bot moving in their favor again.
And that's going to be a late stagger onto Bandit as well. Lead going to be taken. Rotation will have their support ultimates to boot. As the Bobcats, their DPS, who have been very flanky, very aggressive, have their ults online. We know Peace loves to go crazy and find an interesting little spot to use this barrage, so they got to be very careful.
Very careful, very mindful as it's looking for that barrage right there. The immortality field does nothing. Both DPS removed from the fight immediately after that ability. Bandit does manage to get that one onto Peace, but missing the damage, is missing all of the impact in the fight here as the Bobcats are going to continue to roll with the help of Pantera.
Yeah, the 2-for-1 trade for the barrage, you will take that every day if you're Peace. And it was a lot of the supports, and you got that big immortality field out of the way too. So very, very big time play coming out from Peace. Nightmare rotation, however, with a couple players down for the Bobcats, they will get it back in time, but this is just a big, long corridor, so this window can come very strong for Chosen.
Yeah, the Amp Matrix, if it gets invested like that, now a 4v4 as Plato has gone over to the hit scan to try to dispatch this far, but manually is doing too much. That overclock managed to kill Matt Merck here, and it seems like we could be pushing towards a full cap. That switch being flipped, like you said, it could happen here and now.
Not only that, but they also have an orbital ray to work with. They do get Nenwai, but Bandit's been traded out. Orbital ray's out.
Orbital rays out, Matt Merck so incredibly low. The shout, everybody's rampaged up. The anti's being applied left, right, and center. Bobcats, they really don't want to play. They want to end this here and now, but Nightmare rotation, they have but one life left to their name, and by God, is it going to have to be a good one.
Not over yet, and as we said, it's never over on a map like Runasapi. Still plenty of time for the Bobcats to be able to come back, and they already have the forward spawn, so it's not like they have to worry about getting that anymore. They're going to have to string together a decent amount of fights in a row to be able to come back, but it is still on the table.
It's going to be incredibly difficult here as the fight happens on the bot. Peace trying to find some rockets in, make a play happen. Doesn't end up coming with a kill just yet. Now the shout in from Pantera trying to find something. Ultimately just going to have to run away with the hands of the Juno speed ring. So incredibly low is that Junker Queen. Now everybody burning up thanks to this Ashley Kitsune Rush and Bob both being invested now as the bot is running away. They weren't even realizing it. So now both these ultimates end up going to waste. They do manage to find value in them thanks to these picks coming through, but Nightmare rotation, you have about 4 or 5 more of those fights before you can really look at your comeback.
Yeah, stealing the bot away and getting both of those ults out of rotation. I mean, Bobcats did what they needed to do because it was very unlikely they were going to win that given the ult disparity they were going to be at, but they got the tools out of Nightmare rotation they needed. Peace has the barrage once again. Nightmare rotation's got to be head on a swivel.
Being aware of this is always the name of the game here as they start moving the meterage, but like you said, look at this Peace in the back line. Now everybody resorted back to that corner again for their safety, trying to, you know, just take a poke fight here, but Nefaro's more than happy to just continue to shoot rockets from these rooftops, put the damage in to let somebody else on the side of Bobcats follow it up. Now realizing that there's a Junker Queen in front of them, Peace trying to find an angle to get this barrage off that we were looking for. Taking a few knives to the face, has to be careful, and this is just more and more time off the clock. I mean, Bobcats are more than happy to do this. It's all on Nightmare rotation to find an opening, and it seems like they're just going to be waiting for the Symmetra wall. That's going to be their go button. Now the sound barrier to boot as well. The overclock from manually ends up coming up with nothing here. They have to make sure they keep eyes on the Pharah in the sky. That way this barrage does not halt all of this progress, but a good fight from Nightmare rotation to get the bot moving again.
It did cost them both their beat and their sim wall, so you got to keep that in mind. But with this orbital ray coming online for Proto, we talked about how the Rampage can be a big anti-orbital ray ult, and they have that at their disposal. And even if Pantera is able to build up to the Rampage of their own, they have the cleanse ability from Bandit. So I think Nightmare rotation got themselves in a good spot right now.
Good spot. The teleporter's going to get everybody out to safety. That Kitsune Rush now out from Bandit here. Looking for the barrage. He's going to try to go onto the Queen, but it's followed up by Harmony, who managed to remove both DPS from the fight. And with just a Kitsune Rush investment, the barrage negated, this bot's going to keep on moving for Nightmare.
Yeah, they're going to have to get at least another fight or two to match this. A minute 20 left on the clock. Bob and Rampage available against a Rampage and Orbital Ray. This is what this series is all about. This is what CGL Overwatch is all about.
This is it, right? Such intense stakes. Both teams giving it their all. Neither wants the lower bracket piece. We'll find the first one onto Play-Doh before being traded out. 4v4 situation as the Rampage came through and is delivering massively for Matt Merck. The Bob as well being a great assistance here, but they have to start converting this into Bob progress. The Rampage being invested from Pantera when nobody's there to follow it up. Massive misplay that could allow Nightmare rotation back in this series.
Now they can be aggressively here. Manually has to get this overclock online. Pantera's not going to go over to the Doomfist.
The sound barrier, like I said, super aggressive, but it's incredibly low is Harmony. They managed to find that pick, and Peace is coming up in the clutch right now with only 20 seconds left. This could be the final fight, and the Genji being the difference maker that could get Bobcats where they want to be. This Kiriko now getting staggered out in the end, and somebody's going to have to find their way to this payload, and I don't think anybody can.
I definitely think they can, but with the Kiri stagger, things are going to get rough. 3 seconds. Can they touch? They will. It's the Lucio, but they're so low. They're down. Any touchers? There is none. The Bobcats are able to hold off Nightmare rotation as they were making a comeback of all comebacks to win this series and punch their ticket to the grand finals.
I mean, I've heard of digging your heels in, but I think that there's going to be marks in the ground for eons to come with how close that was at the end there. It really was that final fight where Peace came up massively with just raw Genji damage, right? We weren't even looking at a Dragon Blade. It's just these shurikens and the dash combos that were being there for Peace to come up in the clutch when Bobcats needed it most for them to take this series. And like you said, they now find themselves securely in that grand finals. Nightmare rotation, they have a lower final ahead of them to try to get back to that spot.
Yeah, that is kind of the Peace special. You're going to have some situations where you over commit and you get punished for it, but you're also going to get big time plays like that. Who'd been on the Pharah all night, swaps over to the Genji, able to find 3 and help Bobcat stave off Nightmare rotation. And now they're feeling pretty good as they just get to relax, work on their finals, you know, wait for the patch tomorrow and see how things feel for the patch, for going forward on what the meta is and being able to be ready for the grand finals.
Yep, potentially the last match played here in CGL on that Malgam meta. Depending on how that patch shakes out tomorrow, we will have to wait and see. But speaking of seeing, we are going to have an interview with one of the members of Bobcats. It'll be somebody who I'm sure is ready to sing their praises and talk about how hyped they are for this finals. So if you'll give us just a moment to set that up, we'll be right back on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everybody. Here with that interview, as promised, we have Nenwai from the side of the Bobcats after a 5-map gigabanger. How are you feeling?
We're all happy that we won. Peace is stressed out. Said he lost a couple years of his life. But I'm happy we won. It would have been really annoying that we lost. It would have probably been a lot on my fault because I was having too much fun. But I expected us to win, so I'm happy that we were able to win, pull through.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like we got a little bit of everything in that series composition wise. We got the piece special with the feed and the big time clutch plays. How are you guys feeling as they are rounding and coming up on tying up on Runasapi and things are getting tight? You guys lose Pantera and he has to go over to the Doomfist, and then you guys are in a situation where they have ults, but Peace gets 3. I mean, walk us through that right there.
To be honest, I forgot what ults they had, but like. It was getting a little nervous, but I couldn't let the emotions take control. Because of how push works, we got that big lead, and our spawn is right there. I kind of figured that, like, with their ults, they could have turned it, but we just have the advantage of just having that side of the map and being able to make counter swaps. I kind of missed it. They used B, and I was able to kite it, and then Peace just kind of killed their whole team, it seems, while Pantera came back. But I tried to make sure we didn't get nervous. I was like, trying to reassure my team, like, it's okay, they're using ults, everything's gonna be fine. And we clutched. So
Awesome. And then I mean, I think we all kind of know what Nightmare Rotation is as a team. Like, they just play interesting, weird stuff. It's not always going to be what is the meta, like the Mauga Junker Queen, meta that we were kind of in for the longest time with the new patch coming tomorrow. So how do you guys prepare coming into a match knowing that's kind of the game Nightmare Rotation plays?
I think they like to play for chaos and like just obviously running different comps that nobody's prepared for. So I think in some way you kind of match them. You play comps that they can't really prepare for, and you kind of just play a bit differently. That's what we kind of tried a lot, or at least I was also like limit testing with on the like Kiriko, like just hard flanking. And there were times where I was doing it a little too much and like overextending like my team tie, but the general idea of like just matching their freak and kind of just outplaying them and like understanding it, like the game more, kind of helped us get through.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It got you through, and now you find yourselves in those grand finals. I mean, with that patch looming tomorrow, obviously, every team's going to say that they're ready for anything. But if you could, like, handcraft some patch notes, right, what meta do you think you'd want to be going into that gives your team the best shot to take that grand finals?
Oh. Really getting sick of this Juno character. So I really hope Juno gets nerfed in some way. And then you could, like, we can play other backlines that, like...
Amen.
that we can, like, also play. Like, Proto has a pretty sick BAP on a, so it'd be nice to like be able to play one of those. I like playing Lucio. I miss playing Lucio a bit. Malga would also be good. This whole meta, obviously we didn't see it today because Nightmare Rotation plays other things that we played against, or that we tried to counter with. But like, manually, not the biggest fan of Reaper. He would rather play the hard hit scans, And then Peace can play the flex DPS. So I guess overall Malga nerfs, Juno nerfs, and hopefully the meta shift somewhere else.
Yeah. Hey, listen, makes sense to me. Now, before we send you on your way, we'll give you a little bit of time here. If there's anybody you want to shout out, anything you want to say, you got the floor to do so.
Shout out to our 3 coaches in VC, Ray Lenny, Chimanzi, and Maeve. Just helping us out, keeping the vibes up, giving us some tips, and the whole team playing good. Able to carry me when I was trolling.
All right. Well, thank you for stopping to chat with us from one college person to another. Good luck on finals. Have fun. And we cannot wait to see you in that grand finals matchup.
Thank you.
I mean, Ray, that was a good game right there, and I think that tells us, regardless of who ends up in that grand finals alongside them, we're in for a game.
I couldn't agree. I do think if you're the Bobcats, I probably would be expecting Nightmare Rotation to get back there once again. I mean, I know we have, Beagle Bus and Tanuki kind of battling it out. Maybe it'll be them, but these two have been the two best for a reason. I mean, even Nightmare Rotation in the midseason beat Beagle Bus for the grand finals of the midseason. So, I think that's what you should continue to expect, but you never know. So just keep on your toes for Nightmare Rotation. Just be getting, I mean, they're kind of wacky, so I don't really think they're going to be a situation where it's like, let's study and figure out this meta. They're just going to continue to be themselves.
Hey, listen, sometimes being yourself is all you need to be, and it makes me so happy, right? CGL action, when you're getting these peak matches, everybody delivering, like, just makes you remember why you love the game of Overwatch. Even when the metas aren't, the most favorable or fun thing to watch, it just is pleasurable all around. But that is going to do it us for here this evening. Ray, it has been a pleasure casting alongside you. In our back end of things, we had Echo running the show, and I believe we had Mara and MI Blizzard being those lovely observers, getting you all the in-game action. But with all that being said, we're gonna head up out of here. Make sure to follow CGL, do all of that fun stuff, because we got more playoffs and we're gonna have crowns to hand out very, very soon here. So you're not gonna want to miss any of that action as it comes up. But until next time, we'll see you later.